to be here. Thank you very much for finding time to escape those coffees and drinks and cigarettes, wherever. And of course, web audience, thank you very much for checking us out. So I'm going to talk about slightly different stuff than I guess most of the people here. I'm not going to go into massive details on tech, but we're going to talk about the big picture and the future that we are all going to be, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back and kind of going, this is when it really started to happen. And the title that I put is very similar to actually the title that we've seen before, is what is happening beyond the infrastructure bubble? And of course, you've seen the answer, it's consumer crypto. But let me give you a little bit of context, and we are talking a lot about tribalism in Web3. So in 2009, there was a Bitcoin. And the analogy that we're using internally is it's an island, right? So there's an island, it's called Bitcoin, and there are a bunch of people playing their games there and kind of doing their trading. And then in 2011, there was another island that appeared. And then in 2015, a lot more islands appeared. But again, they are all islands. They are all separate. And as Ilya was saying, it's a zero-sum game. Because what started happening, that these islands were competing for attention, not just users, but builders and founders. Now, 2019 is getting really, really quite big already in terms of number of chains. And these are not everything. These are not all the chains that are in existence, but probably just the biggest ones that all of you have heard about. Now, in 2022, it starts to get really, really busy. I guess the top left over there, kind of with the beach in the middle, that's probably Solana, right? Given what we're seeing right now. Now, in 2024, we have more than 1,000 chains in existence. Some people say 1,800, but you know what? Once you go above 1,000, it doesn't really matter. We have way too many chains. And about 200 of them are still in development. I'm sure that you've heard of fundraisers that are happening right now. You've heard and you've spoken to founders building new chains. About 3 months ago, I was at the party in Portugal where 20 people attended. 4 of them were working on new layer 2 and layer 1 chains. Because the easiest thing for fundraising for many, many years has been to build another chain. And all of a sudden, money was thrown at you. Now, this complexity is not everything. Around these islands, we've built these gazillion different bridges. We've built, kind of bilateral bridges, some multi-chain bridges, multi-chain dexes, cross-chain messaging protocols, et cetera, et cetera. There is just huge amount of complexity. But if you really look at it as a map, islands and a lot of stuff connecting them, it still is a tribal world. Every island has their own story. Every island is waving their own flags. If you're in Solana, then you're not, or you're against other chains. If you're on Base, you are not on other layer 2s. It is actually fascinating how backwards this thinking is. Now, what happens when all of this is going to burst? And it is definitely going to burst. Because, look, if you have 1,000 chains, and if you look at dApps, so decentralized apps that have more than 1,000 users, the count of dApps is less than 600. So let's use the analogy of rails, right? The blockchain is a rail. We have 1,000 railway companies chasing 600 carriages to run on them. That's crazy. That doesn't work. Railway company and rails need to have a lot higher number of dApps running on them and a lot higher number of users. So we have certainly overinvested into basic infrastructure, and the reason for it is very simple, because this is, over the last few years, have been the only thing that predictably generated returns for capital allocators. Now, what is going to be next? And you've seen it in the title that it is consumer crypto. And some people kind of challenge me, how do you know? How do you know that it is going to be consumer crypto? And here I'm going to show my age, because we have seen it all before. If we think that Web3 is a unique industry that is working in its own unique way, and is completely separate and is not going to be developing in the same fashion as other industries, we're kidding ourselves. So let's look back in history. I already referred to railroads. The nugget that I have is in the UK, before 20th century, there were 280 railway companies. Within 70 years, they collapsed to 7, then to 1, and 60% of all of those railways were pulled out of the ground because they were generating no traffic and there were absolutely no return. Right now, railways in the UK are not generating a penny, and it is a disaster in terms of kind of infrastructure maintenance. But railways gave birth to pretty much every industry. When I met somebody from the US, they said, oh, I live in Atlanta. Atlanta was created on the confluence of several railways. There was absolutely nothing there. Atlanta was given birth by the fact that there was a junction of multiple railways. So it didn't just start things, it didn't just start industries, it created huge cities that are right now housing tens of millions of people. What happened with radio? With radio, at the beginning, all the money were going into towers, into cables, into radio sets. I don't know if you guys have experienced long waves, short waves. Now we have DAB and everything else. But what is the business model that is sustaining radio right now? It's advertising. It's consumer spending. Now, let's look at television. Television again. Towers, cables, TV sets, black and white, then color. Right now, TV set manufacturers are selling their hardware, their TV sets, at cost. And they make money by pre-installing Netflix, Disney+, and TV channel. It is all powered by consumer spending. Now, let's look at mobile. And this is more recent. I'm sure that most of you would remember how much rage everywhere we were reading about the networks being built. That was what was it? WAP. Then there was Edge. Then there was first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation. And there were towers built, and we had these handset manufacturers like Nokia, dominating the world. But where is mobile right now, and what is happening in mobile? When was the last time you read about a mobile network on the front page of any newspaper? It's long forgotten. Everything that is happening in mobile right now, and all the money that is made in mobile, are practically made by Apple and Google, and it's all happening in a mobile app space. Now, my absolutely favorite and most relevant to all of us, I'm sure, is internet. I'll show my age, but I remember 90s. Cisco was the largest company in the world in 98 and 99. Sun Microsystems was huge. Juniper Networks. It was all about servers, data centers, and building out infrastructure. Dot-com bubble hit in year 2000. And this is a parallel that I think everyone's familiar with, right? Because we're actually tracking adoption of Web3 against the internet. And these are the last numbers that were published. But actually, if you're looking at the actuals now, we're pretty certain tracking about 1999 of internet adoption. What happened in year 2000? Anyone remembers? Dot-com bubble. And what happened in dot-com bubble? All of those infrastructure investments went basically nowhere. But there was a lot of capital on sidelines, and capital allocators and investors needed a new narrative. And in early 2000s, one very important narrative was born, which was consumer internet. And guess what? That is where pretty much all the money made on the internet were made. Not on the infrastructure investment, but on consumer internet. 2003, Google. 2007, Facebook. I'm not talking about gazillion of other companies that potentially have not survived but been acquired and absorbed by these big players. But that's where all the returns came from. Now, no matter what industry you're looking at, the summary is it always starts with infrastructure investment, and then it kicks into consumer version of that industry, and that's what sustains it for the rest of its days. And this is where the money are made. Now, If we know that it is going to be consumer crypto, and I hope that I've convinced you that there is no other way than going down that path, then what are the things that we know about it? First, it is definitely going to be on the mobile. Because if we want to get next billion people, they are not going to be doing this stuff on desktop and laptops. There are no billion people around the world that have decent desktop and laptop available to them. The other thing that we know, it is going to be a lot simpler UX. And I'm calling it chainless because chain to chain to chain is the biggest boon to any user right now. We have millions of users in Sweat Wallet. It's very difficult for them to move from one chain to another. The third thing is that success has to be defined through active users, not TVL. That is one of the most important things for founders, because if you are building for the next billion people, but your target and success is TVL, you're not going to be able to build for the next billion people. Why? Because as you start building, you realize that you can hit your TVL targets by making 10 phone calls to big whales. What you're going to be building, end up, is what they're using right now, just with high APY, maybe with few tweaks on the user experience. And that product that is useful to 10 whales is certainly not going to be the product that the next billion people would want to be able to use. So success has to be active users. And I know that there are a lot of kind of arguments, oh my God, there are so many bots. Look, this is a problem that we can easily solve, but we just need to have a mindset to go for active users. Now, last but not least, we need to have really, really good products. And I believe that these products are all going to be around ownership. Money, data, access, RWAs, and because we're here and because we realize the power of AI, I do believe that a lot of this stuff is going to be powered by AI, or at least built using AI. Now, this is basically a framework that we use internally. So what is consumer crypto? Build on a mobile, really simple UX, with target to bring in next billion people and mass market products. Not another derivative of a derivative of a derivative trading, but something that the next billion people will be able to understand and be attracted to. Now, we, and I mean we as Sweat and Sweat Wallet, we cover these two areas extremely well. We understand how to build for mobile. We understand how to bring in users. But without Near, we will never be able to deliver this simple UX, chainless UX, and build those mass market products. Now, what do we need in order for that to happen? And these are the 4 elements that are basically my interpretation. My apologies if you guys are from Near. I'm potentially using slightly different words for it. But there are 4 fundamental things that power this future. One is sharded architecture. We've heard today that 200 millisecond blocks. Amazing. High throughput, no cap on growth, and low transaction costs. Next is chain signatures, MPC, and fast auth. This means that we are able to have one front end for any chain and every chain, and to use one key to manage all of those actions. And one of my favorites, given the fact that we're aiming for next billion people, we will be able to auto-create accounts on any chain in order to facilitate users' actions if they haven't yet jumped onto that chain. Number 3 is intense-based exchange and bridge. You've seen presentation from Oleg Shevchenko. This is really, really exciting because if you're talking about swapping keys, not assets, that's incredibly easier, but also a lot safer than the current architectures used for swaps. It makes it AI agent ready, and also it enables for us and our users an opportunity to pay any fees on any chain with a token that user has, rather than having to run around and have dozens of different gas tokens. And last but not least is multi-chain one-click connect. That is my absolutely favorite. Not a lot of people in Near ecosystem are talking about it, but because we are thinking about end-user experience, it is extremely important because it's like magic. I press a button, the dApp opens, and I am already connected and logged in. I don't need to click Connect Wallet, go through 7 steps, use Wallet Connect, and then I can actually perform an action on the dApp. When dApp loads, I can do whatever I want straight away and confirm transaction in my wallet. And it will work both ways, from wallets to dApps and from dApps to wallets. So bringing all of this together will enable the future that I'm really excited about, and that's the only slide about us. So Sweat Wallet, we're building one wallet where you'll be able to hold assets on absolutely any chain. You will be able to manage these assets and take any action on them using one key and one key only. For the next billion people, that is absolutely vital. Nobody is going to be running around with dozens of accounts and huge number of seed phrases. And last but not least, at least our users cannot comprehend and understand why, if they are doing one transaction, they need to have BNB, another transaction, they need to have ETH, and that transaction, they need to have AVAX. This is not something that you want to educate our users for, so we want to make sure that our users can pay everything with Sweat. And I can tell you, it's not just the next billion people, but it is people around here. They are excited when I tell them that you can pay your fees on any chain, literally, with your feet. Thank you very much.